Welcome to JJ the Wedding Planner Podcast, the podcast for all the lovebirds who are young or young at heart, the non-traditionalists who might like some traditions, los que hablan español e inglés, or maybe more like Spanglish, where the one rule is that we are exclusively inclusive. I'm JJ, and after almost 8 years in the wedding industry, serving couples of all backgrounds, I realized that there wasn't a central place where I can send them to hear from all the amazing POC professionals that I had met. So, aquí estamos para servirles. After each episode, you will walk away feeling empowered to take on the bits of planning that lead up to your big day, while keeping La Tia lovingly off your back. Bienvenidos! Welcome back, everybody. I am so glad that you are here. I am incredibly excited for today's episode. And before I get into that we have today as guests, I want to thank you all first and foremost for your support over the last few months. It has been an incredibly intense year for me personally and professionally. And so as you can tell, it's been a while since we've actually posted. We started season 3 months ago with our first episode, and we have had some incredible guests who have been able to record interviews with us over the last few months, and I am now getting around to the point where I can actually share them and put them all together along with our team, our podcast producer, and it has been a journey. Let me just say that. I will definitely do an episode where I get into a little bit more the nitty-gritty of what has been happening this year with JJ and her crazy life. But at first, like I said, just want to thank you all for being here, for supporting our company, for supporting the podcast, and for supporting me personally. For those who have reached out, just thank you for your love and your concern and just your willingness to stick around both as past clients, current clients, and future clients to come. So without further ado, I am so excited to introduce our 2 guests today. This is actually the first time that we have a married couple on the podcast. So first of all, shout out to that, because this is a wedding planning podcast. And so it's nice to now have a couple that is married and is giving us some really, really great information. So let me give you a little bit of a bio of them, and then we will get into the interview. Let me also say, this is the kind of interview you may listen to more than once to be able to take notes, to be able to do quick Google searches as you're listening, and absolutely make sure you follow their Instagram and their website. All of the information is in the show notes, but please make sure you do this. I say it for every guest, but it's because it's important that you get connected to them. You don't want to just hear them one time and then, lose all this info. If you get connected now on social media or on another platform, that's how you can continue to learn and grow and work as a couple who's getting married, for yourselves, maybe as someone who is preparing for that. So without further ado, again, I will read their bio. So it says, we're Danny and Lori Navarro, and we're so glad you are here. We share our lifestyle in the skies and on the ground with a Spanglish twist. Viajando por el mundo, or traveling the world, is our passion, and we like to do it in style by optimizing award points and miles while keeping a zero-based budget. As first-generation Latinos, we're proclaiming the quote first in first-class flights and lounges and top-tier hotels. If you're ready to travel, we hope our travel and dinero tips will help you reach the skies sooner. As you'll always hear us say, vamos viajando, the world needs to see us. And let me just say again, this is going to be an incredible interview. You're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to follow up with them, reach out to them, tell them you heard them here, and take any and all of this information and continue to do more research for yourself. This episode is not the end-all be-all of your research, but it's a really, really solid foundation on where to begin if you're interested in doing some kind of like credit card hacking or travel rewards type things for your wedding, right? Weddings can be quite expensive, and if you are able to leverage something like a credit card for points and things like that, if you're at that place, then let's do it however you can. So again, here we go with our interview, Danny and Lori from Latinos with Passports. Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode. Danny and Lori, we are so excited to have you here today chatting with us. I know before we started recording, we already got into some of the stuff and we're like, wait, we should be recording all of this. And so it's so great to just get to know you more. I'm excited to know and hear more about the two of you and what you do and what our audience can learn from that. So let's just start with in getting to know you, who are the two of you. And since you're the first married couple that we have on here, how did you meet and how did you decide to want to work together on what you're doing?
Okay, so we are Lori and Danny. We are founders of Latinos with Passports. It was an Instagram, what do we call it? Channel feed. I keep messing that part up. But we started on Instagram a year and a half ago, and we had already been doing some of the showing our travels part ever since we were dating. But then from there, we started realizing through our engagement and wedding, which we'll share more of in terms of the travel hacking, that there was a financial way to be able to both travel the world and build generational wealth. So that's pretty much the premise of Latinos with Passports. We show the cool part of traveling, but then in the day to day, it's like, no, we got to make sure we're keeping our budget. We're making sure that we are keeping our financials on track for generational wealth for retirement so that we can enjoy these other luxuries of life. So that's how Latinos with Passports, on a brief summary, got started. But in terms of how we met at a work conference back in New York in 2014, as all DC love stories would probably have you believe. Always a work conference somewhere in there. But then at the time, Lori was living in Seattle. I was just starting my career here in DC. And so it wouldn't be for another year that you finally moved to
That's
DC.
when I finally moved to DC. And I always, as Danny likes to say, it took her a while to come around. I was new to the city, and he already knew that you.
Yeah, I already knew.
That you wanted to be with me forever.
Aww.
So then I think we gave love a chance starting in 2016,
late 2016, yeah.
And we got married in 2019, and we got engaged in 2018.
2018, yeah.
To tie to travel, it was after like going to a travel conference of some sort.
Yes.
He took me to. And
so it really all started there.
Yeah, it really started there. I also like to say that while we were dating, so in the first 6 months, he proposed. He shared a trip idea with me. His friends were getting married in Bangkok, and he said, "Hey, there's this trip. Like, do you want to come?" And I was like, "Well, we just started dating. Like, you're already gonna, and this trip's not till 6 months. Like, if I buy my ticket now, you got me locked in for 6 months."
At the least.
That was the point, I think.
Right. Now, what wasn't smart was that this entire trip was on economy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so it was a long flight around the world. So that was our first round the world trip that we actually don't really talk about too much, but it was an opportunity for us to learn about each other, from each other, and it was a wonderful experience. And from there, that's what really led to us then deciding to get engaged 6 months after that, right? And going from there.
I will say, if we're going to drop tips, just starting off the bat, is travel international or travel early with your partner. You have the opportunity to, especially if you're going to a brand new place, a new country, to work together. You get to see how that person travels, how they dress, how they wake up, what their moods are, all that stuff. And you have an opportunity to work together in a new country and see if it works while you're there.
That's actually such a good point, right? Because they always say like IKEA furniture can destroy marriages, but I think you also see like how the person handles stress and pressure. And I think that's absolutely the same idea with traveling. How much do they pack? Are they willing to pay extra to have a more comfortable flight? How, like you said, how do they wake up in the morning? What are their moods like for multiple days in a different country where maybe you don't know the language? That's such a great point of you get to see the person out of their typical element.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So then how did you decide to work on this together? Because you mentioned you already were working in separate companies or doing separate things. So how did you decide to like blend this part of it? Were you both already into finance? How did you find out that this was actually something you wanted to do?
So the funny thing is that when we, I mean, personal finance has always been a great journey of mine by way of getting into credit card debt, heavy credit card debt. I believe when we got married, I had about 20, or I think it was right before when we were engaged. I was really working on it. I'd gone down the rabbit hole of Instagram and learning personal finance and really understanding how to tackle this debt. And you can be earning six figures and be in debt very easily, just as if you were, earning five figures.
Yes.
And
I say it again for the people in the back, because we think the more money, everything will be easier.
So I had over $23,000 in debt from moving across the country and also just not maximizing my opportunities. I would charge things and pay the minimum payment and think that, it'll get taken care of, but it was paying towards the interest, a very high interest rate. And Macy's and Nordstrom's and I were very best friends then. So getting married, then I knew like I needed to tackle this. I wanted it to be done and over with. And it was really important for us to also pay for the majority of our wedding on our own while doing so. So that was a very big project.
Yeah. So, part of being a two-player team in this situation is that, when Lori had this debt, of course, I was like, oh crap, that's when you start realizing these realities, right? Like you want to be with somebody else. It doesn't just mean, the love aspect. It's like, yeah, what are your financials, right? So she had student debt, which she was tackling with through her work. Right now, we can talk about student loans afterwards. I also had my student loans because I was actually going through grad school at that time. So in this situation of her personal credit card debt, having me as the player too, with just a recent credit history, we were able to open up a separate line of credit to balance transfer her debt from these high interest credit cards to one that gave us a 0% APR for 12 months. And that gave us like, okay, cool, a fresh start right there, right?
Yeah.
So I guess one of those first steps is that if you're engaged and you realize, hey, you want to pay off this debt before, you tie the knot, that's a really good way to start, right? Is getting one of these 0% APR credit cards. Yeah, they ain't going to get you travel points. They ain't going to get you none of that. What it's going to give you is time to pay off this debt, right? So that was the first thing we did was, okay, we're going to move that debt over here and we're going to pay this off in this schedule. And we're going to stop, with the Nordstrom and with the Macy's, random spending.
Yep. Pull that
That's when we started doing also the travel hacking via the shopping polls, right? So we started to really redirect and relearn how to spend and how to manage our debt. Now, on top of that, we also meant we needed extra money, right? So Lori was working a second job at Surlatab. At the beginning of our engagement, I was unemployed because I got laid off by my employer. So I was doing DoorDash, tutoring like 20 students. Like I was really just hustling to get more money. And then I finally did get employment by May of that year. And so, but I still continued. I still try to continue doing DoorDashing on the side. It was still doing so at the top. So we were really working extra hours to ensure that we paid this wedding that we hosted. And, for those of you that have seen our Instagram, we had a really nice wedding, as Paul was there, as we had it at.
It's beautiful.
It was really beautiful.
Oh, that face.
Pero cuando dice beautiful, that also means, más plata, right? But we worked hard to make sure that the next day after our wedding, the balance was zero. That was like the non-conditional that we had both agreed to. That bill better be zero, and it was zero. And that felt like such a monumental achievement to do that.
That's huge. And so just to go back a tiny bit, when you mentioned that balance transfer that y'all did, were you engaged at that point or were you still dating?
I think we were
engaged.
I think we were engaged. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I just asked because, you mentioned that Lori, that you were already kind of in your own personal finance journey and all that. But like, we know so many people, especially like Latinos, we don't talk about money, right? It's taboo. Like our parents are like, no me preguntes. Like all you need to know is there's no money. And so how for those that are maybe not so comfortable starting these conversations, like how do we begin at the very basics? Because saying like, okay, we're going to get married eventually, we're engaged. And so obviously there's already a commitment there. And
Yeah.
it's easier to start thinking about, okay, I'm going to take this thing on with you. And then for those that this is like terrifying, right? Because if that would have been me like 6 years ago, I'd be like, oh hell no, I'm not about to take on someone else's debt, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you even begin those conversations, especially for those of us who like were not raised with this and maybe haven't even started our own personal finance journey to now come together with another person? Where do we start those conversations?
I think it's helpful to initially start with, I mean, you learn a lot by the type of dates that you're having. Are you having dates with a partner who, you know, wants to go have a $200 dinner or a $200 brunch? Or are you having a date with a person that's saying, you know what, like, let's do a picnic at the park? And I think that you learn a lot from those. We used to do a lot of free things, some bougie things, because I'm still bougie. Like, I still like nice things.
Yes, absolutely. And it's okay.
Just
like
now
that.
debt free, but yeah. You learn those things. And I think, and I want to believe that it's getting easier to have those conversations, to talk about maybe more in terms of the future. I think talking about student loans, also student debt, that helps you get an idea of where someone is, whether they're at the 20,000 mark or 100,000 mark. That helps as well. But just talking about it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I know from a cultural perspective, you know, my parents did not talk about money. And I would say that that was the fundamental reason why they've had such a dysfunctional relationship, right? Not to get into the details of it, of course, but learning from, you know, and seeing that, it's almost like, for me, it was like, I'm not going to repeat that, right? That inability, that unwillingness to talk about and be open about money, especially when you're like growing up in difficult circumstances, right? It's like, no, that's actually even more important to talk about money, because you need to know what resources you got. And so when, you know, our people need to understand that we're in a whole new time, whole new world. And if we're not being open about money, I'm sorry, but that's a red flag that the other person is hiding something. And you don't want to create those feelings of mistrust, que estoy escondiendo something here. Like, you don't want to do that. And so I think for us, it was easy to come together, because we realized, I know for me, that was like, I need to make sure I am as financially transparent as possible, right? And then when we started the classes with our padre at the church, the first conversation we had was about money. It was like, money was
awesome.
Yeah, he asked us, like, what's the number one thing that breaks relationships? It wasn't cheating, infidelity, it wasn't health, it wasn't none of that. He said money.
Wow.
And it was because if couples don't talk about this, if they don't join their finances, which even then we're like, oh, okay, no, you really want us to fuse everything together.
Right. You're really becoming one.
But it was that. And to hear the padre talk about it in that way, it was also like, no, you know what? We're doing the right thing by talking about our finances.
Absolutely. And I wanted to pull in something we were kind of going into before we started recording, was that our generation, specifically millennial generation, right, where we have seen so many changes in our short lifetimes, and our lives look so different than the previous generations, especially those who have been here multiple generations, right? I'm first gen. And so that I have a very different history than like friends and, you know, coworkers whose families have been here for multiple generations and are established here. And so that's going to be really different for us, right? That like quote unquote American dream, you get married right after college. Like, that's so different. I think it's because it's so different, it's even more important for us to have these conversations. And then for the younger generations, the Gen Z, like, they're seeing what we have had to live through and saying, we don't really want that. What can we do to avoid some of those big things, right? These crazy student loans, going into credit cards because of, you know, they pry on fresh little 18-year-olds who don't know how to deal with money. And then we have all of these issues combined, and we're like, what the heck is happening? How do we get out of this? And how do we get into it in the first place?
Yeah. And so then for us, you know, when we were when we were going through the wedding process, we had the wedding that you see on Instagram was not the wedding we were planning for. And so I think that's kind of a crazy thing to think about, because we were first planning I guess you could say an a la carte type of wedding. Is that how you would describe it?
A bit smaller, more intimate, and then, having a variety of vendors. So not just going to one place that was turnkey, which is where we ended up doing.
Yeah. And the reason why that happened was because the original venue site for the reception ended up converting from a French cafe
type feel.
Yeah, type feel to like a Berlin beer hall.
Oh, wow.
With the beer refrigerator on the dance floor. So it was just like,
and graffiti walls.
Yeah, we couldn't do that. Yeah.
God.
And so the crazy thing about that though is because that crisis, apart from challenging our relationship at that point, because you're like, oh my God, this could really cancel our wedding.
Yeah, I think that happened 6 months
before. Yeah,
6 months before the wedding.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, when we went to go look at the venue once more with my parents, and they were just like, aquí no se casa, mija. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And then I was mortified and embarrassed because I'm first gen and the first daughter. And living across the country, trying to make it all on my own. And my parents are like, this is what you're getting.
Yeah, a little bit difficult challenge right there. So,
oh my God.
But then I think we were also pushing that because we were under the impression that was going to be cheaper. But in reality, it was not really. It was maybe $1,000 cheaper, but it wasn't really making the math wasn't mathing, right? As we say now, right?
Yes.
So when we started looking at the hotels, because we were like, okay, no, we need to switch to this option because now we need turnkey, right?
Yeah.
We started realizing, wait a minute, we can get points off of this, which means, how we wanted to originally, our plan was to get to Bali the shortest way possible. So it was like, we were originally going to just go through Dubai, right? For the honeymoon. Right?
Wow.
And so we were just going to do that. And then we're like, wait a minute, we can get a lot more points. We can get a lot more stuff out of this. We can expand this trip. And if we start doing all these other things, we can now have a bigger trip. And so we're like, well, we might as well get rewarded. If we're spending all of this money, we might as well get all these rewards back. And so then that's where this big honeymoon came from, was because we realized, oh, wow, we should have done it through the hotel in the first place. What helped us out was that on the date of our that we picked was over Memorial Day weekend. And we thought, oh my God, everything's going to get booked. No, there was like several hotels that had nothing booked that weekend. We're desperate for our business. So the other tip is pick dates that you notice, wait a minute, there's like no conventions. I mean, DC is very convention heavy, right, of a city. So like nothing was happening that weekend here. And so they were desperate to host an event because that brings in big bucks. But then that gave us the leverage, because then we went to 4 different hotels, and each of them were like trying to wine and dine us. Like literally one of them wine and dined us. They gave us like how much was that bill for that one
it was
one
a
hotel?
couple hundred. And it was wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
They wine and dined us, but then we were pretty much negotiating. We had the negotiating power. We were making them negotiate against each other. And so we would go to one hotel and be like, hey, look, this other hotel offered us this, this, and this. We'll throw in this. And that's how we started now having more power in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's big for couples that are planning their weddings, is to remind yourself that you are in the driver's seat at the negotiating tables. Turn it around on them. They want your business, your hard-earned money, and nothing is off the table that you can ask for, whether it is, can you throw in the cake? Can you throw in those, what are they? The Chiavari chairs that are like $7 each.
Right. Insane, first of all.
The things that you don't think about, even like with the cake, the tablecloths, but also the cutlery that goes with it. Maybe you can extend your bar hour, or as we did, it was a couple days before the wedding, and we had already settled on one ballroom. I wasn't crazy about it, but it was still beautiful. It's a ballroom. This is at the Mayflower Hotel in DC. And the one that I really had my heart set on and just went with my aesthetic was across the hall. And I looked at it and I was like,
It's the
it was
state
their fault.
ballroom. It's the biggest one that they have.
Yeah, it was their
Oh.
fault because they let me walk into it.
Yeah.
And I said, and they're like, it's actually open. It's actually open for the weekend that you guys, have. And I said, can we have it? Like, it came out of
Yeah,
me and
yeah.
I said, can we have it? And she just looked at us and she was like, sure, for free. Like, we upgraded.
Yeah.
And it was
several
funny 'cause-
$thousand value.
and it's funny because even after Danny was like, well, we already printed like the program. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, like that's an easy fix. Point people that way.
We ended up staying up till like 1, 2 a.m.
At FedEx.
At FedEx.
Oh my God.
But I got like the
But we
ballroom
got the room. Yeah,
I
we got the room.
absolutely wanted, and
Yeah.
it was great.
So yeah, just what's the worst thing to say? No. That's
Yeah.
the worst thing to say.
Yes,
So you might as well
absolutely.
ask and negotiate for everything. So then on the points, on the Marriott points, like because we hosted it,
Yeah.
the Mayflower is a Marriott brand, we ended up negotiating I think an extra double points on the overall offer because they offered us times 4. We said no, give us times 6. Cool, they did it.
Wow.
We got the Marriott credit card to pay that
Uh-huh.
stay and wedding event. So then that way that multiplied us even more so the Marriott points we were getting. Then we asked for all the points from the guests who did not provide a Marriott number, which actually was quite a few of them.
Interesting.
So then that we got the points off of them and the nights. So then that helped us build towards lifetime status. Then what else did we end up getting? Then it was just money stuff, right? Then we just
Wow.
We
got
got like discounts off of our favor was their historic banana bread that they've been making since,
Ooh.
I don't know.
like since forever, yeah.
Yeah.
Since they got here.
Yeah.
So everyone went home. Was supposed to go home with 1 loaf, but La Familia, they will take 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm told.
Mhm. Oh yes, yes. It's like they help
I
clean the
even got
tables
one.
because they just take everything with them.
Yeah.
That's my favorite
Exactly.
part.
So we negotiated the favor of the bread. We negotiated the price per plate. We negotiated the bar. Was that everything on that contract
Everything.
is game, and that's what
Yes.
that's what new couples need to understand. Especially now, I think we saw on the news or on the Daily Show that the price of weddings have gone up 20%
Mm-hmm.
since the pandemic because now everyone's getting married.
Mhm.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not paying that much. You reduce the price right here, or that's it. Now they might feel like they're on the driver's seat because I could just go to another client. Okay, go. Like put it
Yeah.
on them to
Yeah.
go find that other client if they can. So
Absolutely.
that's why you have to negotiate every single thing and just go down the list.
I love that. I'm like, I feel like it can go in 7 different directions from everything y'all have said. For sure, agree with all of the like just asking, right? And that's what I tell all my clients is like, you don't know if you don't ask. And then make sure you get contracts. Look at what they're offering. Look at what other options they have. What can you upgrade for free, right? Finding ways to work on that. So then going with what you're starting to talk about with like the points and all of that, and that's kind of where like my next question is going to lead, and it's a very broad question, but like who is credit hacking for or like points hacking?
Mhm.
Who do you think is like, where do we start and who is this most helpful for?
Yeah, I would say that for a couple that wants to travel frequently, I think this would be something that could be of use for them. Maybe even also infrequently, but maybe not to think about the frequency of travel. It's more about that you're thinking about this as part of your financial strategy, right? You want the overall objective of travel hacking is to maximize your current spending and to save money. That's the objective. So it always comes back to a financial point.
Yeah.
And you should, ideally you should have that as part of your like your marital agreement that we want to maximize our spending and save money. But then especially if you're traveling abroad, you definitely want to be doing travel hacking, right? Because the tickets and the hotels when traveling abroad, especially business class, first class as well, is going to be much more expensive than economy.
Yes.
As you get older, that 5-hour economy flight that you could maybe pull off in your 20s feels a little bit longer now.
It hurts.
Right? 7, 9 hours. It starts to feel a little longer.
Man.
And then we just got to be honest about it, right? So it's also about giving yourself a more comfortable travel, especially that as ideally you make more money over time. You still want to save that money. You still, just because you're richer don't mean that now all of a sudden you're going to drop 10K on a business class trip. No, I want you to save that 10K.
Never.
Yeah. We
She's
never
like,
have
oh
done
no,
that.
even the thought of it.
No, we never have done that. We never have dropped that amount of money. So I would say that's who it is for. It doesn't mean that no, I don't want to also say it's for everyone, because you should also, if you're in debt, get rid of your debt first, right? If you haven't built up your credit score, build up your credit score, because these travel credit cards are going to require very good to excellent credit. So there's a process to it, right? But it is possible for everyone, but you need to have your financials, your financial base steady, and also the commitment of changing your lifestyle. I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I think when we say that, that, there's these other things to address, there's still definitely ways to earn points or miles without having to sign up for a brand new credit card and needing to meet that minimum spend. I started my travel, I wouldn't even say travel hacking, but just being, optimizing my points and miles, being cognizant of this opportunity back when I was, I think, maybe like in my 20s, because at the time Safeway had just partnered with Alaska Airlines. And since I'm from the West Coast, I'm from Washington State, there is, Alaska is our hub there. And so every time my family would go to Safeway, bloop, bloop, when you put in your phone number, you would get miles for that. They don't have that program anymore, unfortunately, but that is an example of optimizing. Like, you're already spending on groceries. You just shared your phone number with the whole familia. So that's good. You just happen to rake in their points.
Yeah.
They weren't on to me then, but they are now.
Well, even right now with the groceries, right? You have your loyalty number. You go to the gas station that they're affiliated with. You save 10 cents a gallon. Look, 10 cents a gallon is going to help you out.
Especially nowadays.
Yeah.
A poquito, it all makes
sense. So it's all about the habit, right? It's all about the habit. So that's why it's not like, oh, cool, I just got this brand new shiny credit card. It's like, okay, cool, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. No, you got to start building the habits, like cleaning out your deck, getting a good high score. But then instead of shopping at the store, go look at the items and then come back home, buy it through the shopping portal, right? It's, dedicating maybe 10 minutes if you're coming in from work, after work, and you're in the metro. Fill out a survey, get 10 points if you don't complete it, or 50 points if you complete it, right? Those things like that. If you're going to go out, try a new restaurant, look at the dining portals of the places you want to get points and miles from, and try out a new restaurant, go support a local business. It's changing those habits. So in that way, you're maximizing the spending you're already going to do, right? That's the key part, right? No, don't spend more. What you got, maximize that. And then that's how you start getting those points and miles. Like Laura said, it doesn't require necessarily a credit card. Obviously, those are going to help you build more points on top of what you can get. But these are the ways that you need to change your mentality. So then that way you get into this mentality of like, is every dollar that I'm earning benefiting me more, right? It's not just aquí leo el dinero y ya. No, it's what else can I get back?
I used to think of it as, I need my dollar to work 2 to 3 times for me.
Yeah.
So it's not just that one-to-one interaction. There has to be some other win from that.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think we can all get behind that. I mean, we work way too hard for our money. If you work twice as hard for your money, it should, give back 2-3 times back to you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the key word that I heard from all that y'all were saying is strategy, right? Because maybe, like you said, maybe we're not at the point where a person has the type of credit score or credit history to get that credit card, but all those little habits make a huge difference. And I think I just, it's so funny because I remember hearing jokes about Latinos, how we use coupons and, we reuse stuff and the bolsa de bolsas, right? All these things, but it's yes, that's actually a great way to learn these little daily habits. And nowadays there's so many options, especially online. There's Rakuten and Ibotta and Fetch and all these little things that literally will take one single step more and not much more time. And I'm that way. I have my list for the grocery store. If I'm at Albertsons or whatever, I have my list, but then I also have the Albertsons app and I'm scanning the little items. I'm like, oh, cool, 50 cents here, 50 cents. By the end of it, typically, and I almost make this a game, which I'm like, I've become such a nerd about
I love it. I love it.
I'm like, because at the end, it tells you how much you save, right? And there's a percent. And so my goal is like 20 to 35% of my bill is what I want to save. And that's typically what I get. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I just feel good because it's stuff we're getting anyway.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Groceries, it's household items, it's even makeup, right? Like all these different things. And you're like, why not save wherever we can and then reinvest that somewhere else, whether it is paying off debt or saving up, you know, for a trip or for a wedding. I'm in the middle of that. I'm getting married in 6 months exactly. It's all like, if it's not a bill, it's going to savings. That's the truth of life. And I think for everyone, it's all those little bits that can get us there.
And if you think about it, I mean, that's the level 2 that we are at. Latinos, people of color, we are so resourceful. So it may have started with our parents, our grandparents, recycling the butter dish for our leftovers, saving the plastic bags or coupon clipping. The cookie tin for
I'm like thinking there's cooking.
To hem those pants. But now it's with introducing digital media that we have the Rakuten, and we still get, I mean, whenever I get a coupon for a grocery store here, like spend $50, get $10 off, I'm clipping that coupon. Absolutely. I always factor it into like, okay, those $10 is like 15 minutes of work I would have had to do or something like that, Absolutely. And so it's I think being resourceful is what our ancestors have passed on to us. And now we're just leveling up on those opportunities.
Nuestra cultura is built for this.
Yeah.
It's built for it. I think what unfortunately has happened before is that, our people, not all of us are citizens. So that immediately, restricts access to credit cards, which is why we also want to encourage people to still travel hack, even if you don't have access to those credit cards, because you can, right? And that is possible. You don't need to be a citizen to have a loyalty number, right? As an example. But also, yes, discrimination has happened, that still happens, unfortunately, in many instances. So we're trying to tell people, instead of being scared by that, right? Instead of assuming that the credit cards are this devil thing, no, que diablo, ahí está, te va a tumbar la vida. No, instead, these are tools, and these are the tools that other folks, white people are using, right? Not to make it racial, but there's a reason. But there's a reason why there's a racial wealth gap, right? It's because one group of people have used the resources that they created and maximized the living hell out of it, right? And then leaving everyone else behind. We, in turn, have to get to those resources, right? There's this idea that, because credit cards are bad because they might push prices up for poor people, then we should all stop using credit cards. No, it's the other way around. Everyone should learn how to use these resources. So in that way, we force a change in how one group of people create these problems for others, right?
Yes.
In our instance here with not just travel credit cards, but look, what was the first credit card we mentioned? A 0% APR balance transfer credit card that did not give us rewards. It was to give us the space to be able to pay off our debt.
To breathe.
To breathe.
Yeah.
So that was the first credit, and that is what was the city? I forget which one it was. It was from Citi. That was our first financial tool. I didn't have a credit card of any type till I was 26 years old.
Wow.
Right? Lori had it before, but then that's what got her into debt. Right? But that was that, right?
Like,
but
same.
Right?
When Victoria's Secret, Express, Macy's, when they offer you those credit cards and
they know.
And when they do it now, and I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, don't get any of those. I think
you didn't know any better then, and it was so easy to get a credit card.
Yes, free money, of course.
Exactly. I think the only one of those. Oh, sorry, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the only credit card that is of that type, right, that is from a vendor, I think the Apple credit card might be decent, but we haven't given it a chance, right? Not that we really need to, but that's the whole point, right? It's don't just accept and the offer, just look at, does it make financial sense for you? Just as many times when it comes down to the travel happening, people ask us, "Oh, do you have the Amex Platinum?" No, we don't. And they're like shocked. They're like, "Wait, but you've been to Emirates first class?" Like, yeah, but we didn't need that credit card to get that flight.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about matching your financial situation to the credit card that you need, not what everyone else is promoting. I think what was that one credit card? The Bill credit card that came out to a lot of fanfare from folks. We wrote up a piece about how, hey, this might not work for everybody, and then everyone lost their minds. They got mad at us because
how funny.
That might be for like a tea episode.
Yeah, for a tea episode.
Like, okay, there's gonna be a part 2.
Yeah. Pero the whole point of that was, I mean, hey, we wanted to show folks just because it sounds cool and everything, we wanted to highlight these potential blind spots. We're not saying it doesn't work at all, right? It could work for certain person or a couple. Pero it's again, those habits. Get in the habit of doing your research, doing budgets. Going back to that first question you asked us, how do we overcome that taboo of speaking finances? Well, if you don't overcome it, you ain't doing none of this that we're talking about.
Yep.
No pasa nada.
Yeah. Plus, I think we also take very serious that, of the space that we have on Instagram, and that if we're going to be sharing financial journeys, any financial product, we have to look out for our gente first and foremost. And so while products like that may benefit a certain population, if they are being shared or advertised to our gente as you can do it too, and not sharing the pitfalls of it, Mama Shark, I have to speak up because I need to sleep at night. And we have to. We owe it to our community.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's the most important part is like, because our community, we're talking about, right, like the racial wealth gap, it's like they did this by using our labor and our, just having to do whatever we needed to make it. And that made us resourceful. And now we get to take that to the next level where we're like, it's not just me. And that's, I think, what I love the most about people of color. And, it's unfortunate. Obviously, it's disgusting all that we've had to go through, but it's also made us much more about the community because it was survival for so long, right? It was just, you had to have your community to get you through what people had to go through. And now we can use that as our greatest asset of looking out for each other, having these conversations, sharing about, yes, here are some good things and here are some things to look out for. And that's how we grow. That's how we get better. I'm like, that's why this podcast happened. I'm like, what is the use if there's something that's good for me, if I don't share it with my community, right? I'm like, the whole idea of like self-made, like I'm not self-made, I'm community raised. Like that is how I became who I am. A lot of it was pushing away from the old mentality, and yet I still had my community supporting, and we get to be the community supporting others, especially the younger people coming up. We can show them the pitfall of like, hey, look out for this thing. Oh, you just graduated high school. Okay, look out, because people are going to want to be giving you credit cards and don't do it, so that's
pero no solamente
grow.
But not solamente the young folks, but also our parents too, because in that community, right, if there is a unfortunate weakness that I think our generation is discovering, is that trauma can sometimes hold us back. And so I think that in part when it comes to credit cards and talking about money, I think that part is what we're also having to recalibrate too, is being open about talking about finances, having these plans. Look, the reality is, mama, papa, you're getting older. We need a retirement plan. We can't just kind of be like, maybe no, because it affects the couple. It affects individual. And it affects the couple. It affects the individual. When you're setting yourself up to getting married, these are all realities. Es la verdad. And so if we don't create that culture, a new culture to add to our community of just being honest about financial necessities, that could also impact, your relationship negatively, but also yourself negatively. And it's all part of it. I think folks are realizing, wait, I thought they were going to talk about travel hacking. He's like, yeah, we are. We have to get all these.
This is how we get there.
This is how we get there. We have to get all these pieces together first. Yeah.
It's a roadmap. I've been thinking like there should be a checklist that's more realistic of the kind of conversations you should have with a partner when you're dating. You know, yes, it's good to know what their debt is. You definitely should know that. But also, what's the expectations of your family, of your padres when they get older? Are you going to have to take care of them? Or do they got it? Or what does taking care of them look like? Also, or, you know, have you taken out any credit cards under their name for them? Like that too. Like
Iba a comprar casa. You know, yeah.
There's absolutely, this is a holistic conversation. And I think that is the whole point of every time that I talk about finances or that we mention this, because it's like, oh yeah, like, right. Like as a wedding planner, I'm like, yeah, weddings are pretty and there's flowers and you're wearing a pretty dress or an awesome suit, but there's so much more substance. And I literally, every single couple, anyone who's already worked with me or anyone who will work with me, you will hear me say the wedding day is fun and beautiful and exciting, but you're starting a marriage. You're walking into this new chapter. And like we were joking about earlier, like it's IRS official. Like this is a whole new, you're signing a legal document. You're doing all of these decisions. You're making all of these decisions with another person. And so realizing that every person is in a different situation. Maybe there's medical debt, right? If when we start talking about like,
I mean, we haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah, like that's a whole nother side of it. But knowing what you are, where you're at, right? Because so many of us also like, maybe we have credit card debt, but we don't even know how much we actually owe because we're afraid to see the damage we've done. And then bringing in that conversation with your partner and saying, look, like, if we're going to do this, if we're going to have a life together, we need to talk about where we are, what our goals are, what we want to work towards. Like you're saying, bringing in parents, right? I'm like, I've got my mom and our father-in-law with us. That's a very different situation than like if we were just two people living alone. And so talking about all of this and what does that look like? Retirement planning, savings, all these things for parents, for ourselves. It's important for people to hear how complex sounds like a bad word, but like how intricate, I guess. Like this
es la verdad. Es la verdad. And you know, you're not gonna knock this out in one conversation. Make this a habit.
Yes.
You know, we do check-ins on our on current finances, future finances, our plans and everything. It might sound like, oh my God, it sounds too businessman now. This type of romantic. So it's like, no, I mean, no, look, that's challenging too. Don't get me wrong. Pero la verdad is that if you're not keeping in tabs with one another about this stuff, like you're going to create other problems that you are not realizing, right? And so to kind of like hopefully bring the circle back together when it comes to weddings, you know, have fun. I mean, enjoy the roller coaster experience that's going to be. I'm sure you're enjoying this roller coaster experience, but
some days,
right?
Like it's different being on the bride's side than the planner's side.
Eso sí, verdad. Yeah. Because you know, when we were hiring for our planner, for example, I think we only ended up hiring, what was it? What was she, a coordinator for the day or for the month? It ended up being for the month out, right? Ashley, was it?
No.
But ¿quién era?
It was for a couple. She was out for a couple months.
Oh, a couple months.
Excuse me. Like day of.
Yeah. That's right.
Long lasting. It was also very important with our vendors to have people of color.
Yes.
I think pretty much all of our vendors were people of color, even at the hotel. The coordinator there, she was Latina from Costa Rica, and you know, it was important just because sometimes these spaces like a grand hotel like that, they ended up telling us it was the first time that we ever had a mariachi band in here.
Are you for real?
Absolutely. I think that they were just, they loved it. But I think the shock,
culture
and for
shock,
us, of course, my mom was like, we're going to walk through the grand space in the center. I'm like, of course. We are.
Like through the lobby. And
we did that. And the people that were checking in just stopped. Everyone just stopped. And to see a lot of the servers and whatnot come out. I mean, it was such a touching moment. It was like doing it for the cultura, you had to and take up space and don't worry about the noise you're making.
Same
time.
it just never crossed our mind. Like, oh, can we do this? Like, no, we're just gonna do it. Like, of course, we just drop money over here.
Exactly.
We just drop money over here for this. We're gonna do what we want to do.
Yes.
So
and
yeah,
that's such a good point, because when we do something, it's more than just for us. It's also for those that couldn't, right? For whatever legal reasons, financial reasons, whatever, we're doing it for all those that we stand for. And I think that includes getting our financial stuff together, right? Like that is because so many of the generations before us couldn't and didn't have access to it. And now we are at the place where we can. And so when we do it, we're doing it for all the people that came before us and all those that will come after.
Yeah. And it's tough work now that I think our generation is putting in. It's hard work to reprogram, relearn your relationship with money and with your family. But like your younger siblings will thank you. The next generation, it's only going to get easier for them. And yes, we have a lot more catching up to do.
Yeah.
But never underestimate the underdog.
That's right.
Eventually we will get there.
I mean, and if you look at it from the travel hacking perspective, we have, right? I mean, we've taken these wonderful trips that we've worked hard for, and we blessed the lucky stars and God for it. To be able to do this that we've been able to do. And I mean, even during COVID, right? I don't know if for folks that were following us from the beginning in 2011, we were kind of like one of the first couples like in that space that were like, oh, we're flying business class. Wait, what? You're going away? Like, it's still COVID. It's like, yeah, well, we're vaccinated, right? It's like, here we go. Yeah. I'm happy because we're tired of being stuck a year and a half at home. So I think the important part there was to show people like, look, we took, yes, we had, what was this situation of COVID, and we're still a young couple. We're obviously COVID impacted us in so many ways, but then it was still important to, hey, come back, right? Like the relationship needs to still pursue your goals, right? Even though we got thrown a massive curveball 6 months in, right? And I know for a lot of couples that had their weddings postponed. I know your sister had her wedding postponed over a year. I know a lot of couples have gone through the stress of a pandemic, and our advice there would be to like hang tight. Don't lose hope. I mean, look, we're hopefully getting over this pandemic at the moment that we are now, but that doesn't then mean forget the financial lessons, right? Forget those lessons. No, you still got to keep strong with that.
Because if anything, now is the time to be even more diligent, because it is more expensive to be outside than what it was 2-3 years ago.
Yes. With flights and gas prices, I'm gonna stay home. Hay comida en la casa. Right? I'm like, I'm good here.
No, está caro la vida. Está caro la vida. So you want to make sure that you set yourself up right, just because the emotion of it all is there. Oh my God, we want to get married now. It's like, don't lose the financials. Don't lose the financial side of things, because that's going to be important for you.
Absolutely. Just for fun, where are some of the places that y'all have been to since getting together?
And do our first trip?
Yeah, so our July 2021 trip, before that we did like a mini trip to Charleston and Savannah, here in the US. That was like our first little mini trip. But then the big one after that was Miami to Dubai, and Dubai, Rome, Florence, and Paris. That was last year in the summer. And so that was when these countries were like, you can come in, vaccine mandatory. And we're like, oh, no problem. We'll go. Yeah. And the I think that was such a unique experience. I think especially compared to this year's, that barely anyone was there, relatively speaking.
Interesting. Right? Yeah.
Like, all the attractions were less crowded, just less crowded in general, and people were like very much happy to see to see us there. And so then so that was that first trip that we took afterwards. We've been to Dubai 3 times now, fortunately, to the City of Gold. I mean, we just absolutely love it there. It's such a multicultural place, and just overall we're wonderful. We've been to Ciudad de Mexico already this year. I'm trying to remember where else we've been. Oh my goodness.
Overall. Bangkok, Bali.
Yeah, Bangkok, Bali. Before when we went to the honeymoon, Vienna. That's when we did the first time as a dating couple. So we've been able to travel, fortunately, a lot of places. Oh, and Egypt, of course, couldn't forget.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So we've been able to travel to all of these destinations. Obviously, we still got a lot more that we want to go to. But yeah, and most of it, I will say, in some one way or another, been travel hacked. Either we did it all on points, or we upgraded with points. One way or another, we've managed to save money, make our flights comfortable on all of the trips that we've done. And you can check those out on our Instagram as well.
Yes.
All the not only where we've been, but also how we travel hack.
Yeah,
It's also important to show people, hey, this is how we actually did it.
Do not
Yes.
gatekeep. After every trip, we will put out a post with exactly how much we paid, what the points were, what kind of room we had, if there were any promos,
Upgrades,
like breakfast,
promos,
stuff like that, because I think it's important for people to also see the work that goes into it, and then how you apply those points and what it means.
And that's actually what I love the most about your page, is that you do that, because there's a lot of pretty travel pages where you're like, look at all the places they've been and all the things they did, but they don't tell you how to do it. And
How
you
they got
really
there,
break it down, and like things to look out for, and this is how much this costs, and this is how we made it happen. And that makes it much more accessible for people, right? Because like I got myself into crazy credit card debt, finally paid it all off. For years I was like, credit cards are the devil. And then I'm like, okay, no, I gotta get back into it. And so for those of us who are like, I don't even know where to start, the way that you show what you do and how you do it together has been so awesome to see. And I think we'll just continue inspiring people, like, yes, work hard and work on your goals and work on debt, but also enjoy life, right? Like, that is the beautiful part of it, is travel, whether it's international or not. Like, even if it's within the country, for those who aren't able to leave for whatever reason, like there are ways to enjoy life, you know, and prepare for, you know, retirement and savings and stuff, but also enjoy the life that we have right now, because life is short and we got to enjoy it, right? We got to make memories, and we want to be able to look back at things that we're like, man, that was so dope, we did that. You know?
No, absolutely. That 1 hour of strategy planning, of financial talk that you have with your partner is going to lead to weeks, months, lifetime of memories. That's the way that we got to start looking at it, instead of the other way around. So
absolutely. This has been so awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share or bring up, or anything before we wrap up?
I think at the heart of Latinos with Passports, it's really important for us to share that everyday journey. So you may see us someday, sure, you know, flying business or first class to Dubai, whatever. But then you might also see us the following month flying just economy to go see our family, but we didn't have to pay for that flight across the country. And that's okay. We want to show you exactly how we strategize and that it's accessible. You know, todos pueden. And when it comes to weddings, you're right. It is the wedding for the day, but it's the marriage for life. And so it takes a lot of hard work. It's a lot of fun along the way, but you really can have the wedding of your dreams. I think that it's possible. Those dreams may get modified along the way, but that's okay. It's going to be incredible.
Hable con tu pareja, right? It's like you got to keep those lines of talking, even when you disagree, when you argue. Like it's because y'all just trying to get. If y'all both understand you want to get to that one goal, right? It's worth the journey. And that's what it is at the end of the day. You have to just be open about it. Look, as a male, as a Latino, right? Guys, quit the machismo. Quit that. No, seriously, like
absolutely. I'm like, this is again another topic. Like,
humble yourself. Like seriously, humble yourself, because you know you think you know all the answers, and you don't know. Be humble that you don't know any of the answers, and be open to learning from your partner. Be open to learn from others, because then that's what's going to help you not only have a beautiful wedding day, making sure that the next day you don't owe anything, but just a lifetime of firm commitments, right? You know, I'm not gonna do vices and waste my money, right? You know, I'm gonna commit to this marriage and stay forever. So yeah, I think that for guys especially, like, be humble yourself and be ready for the journey, because it's gonna be tough, but it's also gonna be very beautiful at the same time.
I love that. I'm like, we're gonna have a whole nother episode about that. But
Yes,
this has
it's
been so awesome. You guys are incredible. Again, what you're doing and how you share, like it makes it feel so much more possible. And, in watching your page for now, maybe a year and a half, I think is when Soledad from Wealth Para Todos, shout out, she shared your page with me and I was like, oh my God, like this is incredible. And so it's been, just so awesome to see how you've grown and what you share. And so for those who are listening, who maybe aren't following you yet, where can we find your stuff? Do you have an additional website? How can they get in touch with you if there's something that they want to say, oh, this tip was so helpful? How do people get in touch?
Absolutely. So we are on Instagram at Latinos with Passports. You can follow us there for our content on traveling and finance. We have our website, latinoswithpassports.com. And we do have a Twitter, which you can find again on the website there as well.
Yeah, and if you, found a tip or something exciting that you want to actually talk to us one-on-one, one thing that I love that we do and we say we want to stay committed to is offering a free consultation call to our gente that you can schedule that on our website. And whether it's to talk about finances or also maybe you're thinking about a trip and you want to know a little bit of the strategy to get there, then schedule some time with us and it's complimentary. And we love to just get as many of our people, flying and seeing the world.
I'm gonna hit you up about that Dubai and Bali one.
Let's do it.
I'm
Absolutely.
like, Dubai, we've been wanting to go there.
You must.
Yeah. It's a wonderful city, and Bali. I mean, yeah, we've been saying we want to go back there for sure. So yeah, we have to make it happen soon.
Honeymoon material.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much again for your time. I know we are all busy. We're hustling. We're doing our thing. And so I just appreciate you and for all you do for the comunidad where it all comes back to. So thank you so much.
Claro que sí. A la orden.
Okay, friends, ya se terminó. That's it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We can be BFFs on Facebook and Insta at JJ the Wedding Planner Co. And did you know that you can directly schedule a call with me? It's true. Check out the link in the show notes to pick a time. And if you're not sure if having a wedding planner is right for you, then this is the time to ask me those questions. So check out that link to set up your time one-on-one with me. And before you go, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review on today's episode and tell us what you are loving so far. Thank you so much. Los quiero. Adios.